You know, when you think about blood, what really comes to mind? Probably just red stuff, right? But what if I told you it's actually an elite, highly organized team, a squad of specialists working 24/7 just to keep you going? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and take a look at the secret life of your body's very own A-team.
Okay, let's try a little thought experiment. Picture your body, right now, as a massive, sprawling metropolis. And inside this city, there are trillions, literally trillions of citizens, your cells. Now, how on earth do you manage a city that big? How do you get food and oxygen to everyone, protect them from invaders, and have emergency services on call 24/7? The answer? Well, it's flowing through you as we speak.
So if we look at the population of this bloodstream city, it really boils down to two main things. The biggest chunk, by far, is something called plasma. The best way to think of it is as the city's whole environment. It's the rivers, the highways, the very air they breathe. It's mostly water, sure, but it's jam-packed with all the cargo, hormones, nutrients, you name it. And then you've got the other part, the formed elements. These guys are the actual workers, the citizens on the ground doing all the important jobs.
All right, so here's the plan for today. First up, we're meeting the oxygen delivery service. Then, we'll check in with the body's defense force. After that, we'll watch the emergency repair crew do their thing. And to wrap it all up, we'll take a peek inside the control center that runs this whole incredible show. Okay, let's dive right in with the first department, logistics. I mean, think about it. Every single one of those trillions of cells is like a tiny factory, constantly screaming for oxygen and needing its trash hauled away. This isn't just some simple delivery route. We're talking about a massive, round-the-clock supply chain, all happening on a scale that's almost impossible to imagine.
So, how do you even begin to solve a logistical puzzle like that? What kind of system could possibly be efficient enough to reach every single part of the city? We're talking every back alley, every skyscraper penthouse, from your brain all the way down to the tips of your toes.
Well, let me introduce you to the crew. The absolute superstars of this operation are the red blood cells. They have this really cool shape, kind of like a donut, but with the middle filled in a bit, that biconcave disc shape. It's genius, really. It gives them tons of surface area for grabbing oxygen, and it makes them super flexible, so they can literally fold themselves up to squeeze through the tiniest blood vessels. And inside each one is the real hero, a protein called hemoglobin. The whole team travels on that liquid highway we mentioned, the plasma, which also doubles as the garbage truck service for waste like CO2.
Get ready for this. 97%. That's not a typo. 97% of all the oxygen in your body is being chauffeured around by hemoglobin. Yeah, a tiny bit dissolves in the plasma, but for all intents and purposes, everything relies on this one amazing protein. Without it, the whole city just runs out of air. We're talking minutes.
All right, so the supply chain is sorted, but what about security? You know, any big city is going to attract trouble. And in this case, the troublemakers are invaders, like bacteria and viruses, constantly trying to breach the walls. So, naturally, you need a top-notch defense force.
So what happens when the alarm bells ring? When one of those dangerous invaders actually gets inside? You can't just sit around. You need an immediate response before they can take hold and cause chaos. And it turns out, your body has this brilliant two-pronged strategy to handle exactly that. Let's break down these two branches. First, you've got your innate immunity. Think of this as the city's general patrol officers. They're fast, they respond to any disturbance, and their methods are, well, a little messy. They cause inflammation and send in these cells called phagocytes that basically just eat anything that doesn't belong. But then you have your specific immunity. These are the elite special forces. They take a little longer to get ready, sure, but that's because they're gathering intel, coming up with a precision strike. And here's the kicker. They have a memory. They remember the bad guys, so if they ever show up again, the response is devastatingly fast.
So let's meet some of these soldiers. You've got your neutrophils. These are the frontline grunts, the first ones to storm the breach, literally engulfing bacteria. Then you've got macrophages, the heavy-duty sanitation crew that cleans up the mess. And over in the special forces, you've got the T cells. They're the field commanders and the assassins. And you've got the B cells. Oh, the B cells are amazing. They're basically walking weapons factories, churning out billions of custom-made antibody missiles designed to hunt down and neutralize one specific enemy.
Okay, so we've got our deliveries and our defenses covered. Awesome. But what happens when the infrastructure itself takes a hit? You know, a pipe bursts, a wall gets breached. This happens all the time in any city. You absolutely need an emergency repair crew that's on site in like seconds.
No, seriously, think about it for a second. That tiny little paper cut you got last week, that was a breach in the city wall, a broken pipeline. So why didn't it turn into a total disaster? The reason is that an emergency protocol kicks in instantly, way before you're even thinking about finding a Band-Aid.
The fancy name for this whole process is hemostasis. And let me tell you, it is one of the most essential survival tools we have. It's not just about slapping a patch on a hole. No way. It's this beautiful, perfectly timed chain reaction, a chemical cascade, all designed to plug a leak before it gets out of hand. So here's the 3-step emergency plan in action. Step 1, vascular spasm. The second there's damage, the blood vessel itself clamps down, squeezing shut to slow the leak. Bam! Instant response. Step 2, platelet plug. These tiny little cell fragments called platelets get the signal, and they suddenly become super sticky. They rush to the scene and start piling up, forming a temporary plug. Step 3, coagulation. This is the big one. A whole chain reaction of proteins kicks off, creating these threads called fibrin, and these threads weave together into a super strong mesh, basically turning that temporary sticky plug into a rock-solid, durable clot. Job done.
Okay, so we've got our delivery crews, our army, and our repair teams. That's incredible. But who's in charge? Who's making the big decisions? Who's telling the city when to hire new workers or how to manage the budget? There has to be a control center, right?
You bet there is. And your body doesn't just guess how many workers it needs. The whole process of making new blood cells, it's called hemopoiesis, is completely driven by demand. It's super smart. For instance, when your kidneys detect that oxygen levels are dropping, maybe you've gone for a run or you're up in the mountains, they send out a hormonal memo called EPO. And that memo goes straight to the factory, your bone marrow, with a very clear message. Hey, we need more oxygen trucks on the road. Fire up the assembly line now.
And clever resource management is absolutely critical. Just look at where your blood is at any given moment. This is wild. A whopping 64% of it is just chilling in your veins. They're not just pipes, they're a massive reservoir of backup supply. So if you get injured and your blood pressure starts to drop, your nervous system can send a signal telling those veins to squeeze, pushing all that reserve blood back toward your heart and brain to keep the most important parts of the city online. How cool is that?
So yeah, the kidneys aren't just in charge of recruitment. They are the long-term city managers, the master regulators. They use hormones, like one called aldosterone, to fine-tune the salt and water levels in your body. And by controlling that, they control the total amount of blood in the system, making sure the pressure in all those pipelines is always just right.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the logistics, the defense force, the repair crews, the central command, you realize you're looking at this mind-blowing, self-regulating system that's on the job 24/7. It predicts problems, it adapts on the fly, and it fixes itself, sometimes for 100 years. It's just incredible. Which leaves you with one last question to chew on. What would it actually take? What kind of insane challenge could finally push this nearly perfect A-team past its absolute limits?